Daeho Kim stood in the massive chamber of the Galactic Council and felt his hands shake with anger. Around him towered the representatives of the three great powers that ruled the galaxy. The Veltharians looked like giant lizards with golden scales and sharp teeth. The Nexari were tall and thin with gray skin and huge black eyes. The Corvani were the oldest race and looked like walking trees with branches for arms. All of them looked down at Daeho like he was an insect. The chamber itself was bigger than any building on Earth. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that showed images of the galaxy. Thousands of stars blinked in the walls, and Daeho could see the human colonies marked in red. There were not many red dots compared to all the other colors. High Counselor Vorth Ka of the Veltharians spoke in his deep voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. His words came through the translator device that every being in the chamber. War. The device made all languages sound the same, but Daeho could still hear the hate in the alien's voice. The motion to relocate the human settlements from Mining District 7 is approved. The humans will be moved to the Outer Rim worlds where they can continue their useful work. The Veltharian Military Command requires those systems for our new defensive installations. Daeho stepped forward, and his voice echoed in the huge chamber. Honored council members, those Outer Rim worlds are death traps. The radiation levels will kill our people within months. We have families on those mining worlds, children who were born there. You cannot just move them like cargo the next sorry. Representative tilted her head in that strange way they did when they were thinking. Her name was something Daeho could not pronounce, so he just called her the calculator in his mind. She spoke in her cold voice that never showed any feeling. Ambassador Kim, your concern is noted but irrelevant. Human lifespans are short compared to ours. The statistical probability of significant population loss is acceptable. Your species reproduces quickly enough to replace any losses. The mining operations must continue, and the Veltharians need those systems for strategic purposes. The ancient Corvani counselor made a sound like wind through leaves. When he spoke, it was like listening to an old tree creaking. The young human speaks of families and children as if these things matter in the greater scope of galactic civilization. Humans have served their purpose well as a labor force. They should be grateful that the Council found a use for their primitive species. Daeho felt his face turn red with anger, but he kept his voice steady. Primitive? We built faster than light travel on our own before you found us. We colonized 12 systems without your help. Our scientists have improved your mining equipment by 40% efficiency. How is that primitive? High Counselor Vorth Ka laughed, and the sound was like stones falling down a mountain. Yes, you have some clever tricks, but you are still a young species. You understand nothing of galactic politics or proper civilization. The fact that you argue with your betters proves this. A civilized species knows its place. Our place? Daeho's voice rose higher than he wanted. You mean working in your mines until we die? Having our children taken for labor camps? Watching our people disappear when they ask for better conditions? That is not civilization, that is slavery. The chamber fell silent. Every alien in the room stared at Daeho with different expressions. Some looked angry, others looked shocked. A few looked like they wanted to eat him. Daeho realized he had just said something that no human representative had ever said before. The calculator spoke first. Slavery is an emotional term that does not apply here. Humans are given food, shelter, and medical care in exchange for labor. This is a standard economic relationship that benefits both parties. The Council provides protection and guidance while humans provide useful services. Protection from what? Daeho asked. The only thing humans need protection from is you. The Corvani Counselor's branches rustled with what might have been amusement. The young human shows spirit but no wisdom. Perhaps this is why their species requires such careful management. They do not understand the dangers that exist in our galaxy, or the generosity the Council has shown them. Vorth Ka stood up, and his massive form cast a shadow over Daeho. Enough. The motion has been passed. The humans will be relocated as planned. Ambassador Kim, you will return to your quarters and prepare the relocation orders. This discussion is finished. But Daeho did not move. What about New Terra? You promised that would be our permanent home. We have 500,000 people there, including children born on that world. They have never even seen Earth. New Terra will be reassigned to the Veltharian 7th Fleet as a forward base. Vorthka said without any emotion. The humans there will be relocated to Mining District 12. The matter is not open for discussion. Mining. District 12 is in the void sector, Deho said quietly. Nothing lives there. The space itself kills organic life. You are sending 500,000 people to die. The calculator nodded as if Deho had just solved a math problem. Correct. However, the mining yields in that sector are exceptionally valuable. Human workers have proven more resistant to void exposure than other species. The projected mortality rate is 73% over the first year, but the remaining population should adapt or be replaced as needed. Deho stared at her. You just told me you plan to kill 360,000 people, and you said it like you were ordering lunch. Death is a natural part of resource management, the calculator replied. Emotional attachment to individual units reduces efficiency. This is why humans remain unsuitable for administrative positions despite their useful mechanical skills. The Corvani counselor made that wind sound again. The human grows agitated over natural selection. This proves the Council's wisdom in maintaining strict oversight of their species. Left to their own devices, humans would surely destroy themselves with their emotional instability. Deho looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring down at him. For 50 years since first contact, humans had tried to fit into galactic civilization. They had followed every rule, accepted every insult, and worked in whatever jobs the aliens gave them. They had hoped that proving their worth would earn them respect and equal treatment. Now Deho understood that no amount of good behavior would ever change how these beings saw humanity. To them, humans were tools to be used and discarded. The aliens did not hate humans. They simply did not think of them as real people with thoughts and feelings that mattered. I see. Deho said quietly. Thank you for making your position clear. Vorthka seemed surprised by Deho's sudden calm tone. Then you will comply with the relocation orders? I will deliver your message to my people, Deho said. It was not exactly a lie, but it was not the truth either. The council session ended, and Deho walked through the crystal corridors of the station. Other humans he passed looked at him with hope in their eyes. They thought their ambassador might have good news from the council. Deho did not meet their eyes in his quarters. Deho sat at his desk and stared at the communication device that could send messages across the galaxy in minutes. He thought about the people on New Terra who were playing with their children right, now not knowing they had been sentenced to death. He thought about the miners who worked double shifts hoping to earn enough to bring their families to better worlds. He thought about all the humans who still believed that diplomacy and patience would eventually win them a place in galactic society. Then Deho began to type a message to Earth. His fingers moved slowly at first, then faster, as the words poured out of him. When he finished, he read the message 3 times before sending it. Diplomacy has failed. The aliens do not see us as people, and they never will. They plan to work us to death in their minds and replace us when we die. We tried their way for 50 years, and all we got was slavery with better food. It is time to remind the galaxy what humans are really capable of when we stop asking for permission and start taking what we need. Deho sent the message, and then he began to plan. The message from Deho reached Earth just as Prime Minister Hyun-Soo Kang was reading the daily reports from human colonies across the galaxy. Every report told the same story. More families separated, more workers dead from unsafe conditions, more humans who asked questions simply disappearing in the night. Hyun-Soo sat in his office in Seoul, looking out at the city where his grandparents had been born. Earth had changed much since the aliens arrived 50 years ago, but humans had tried to keep their homeworld as normal as possible. Now he wondered if that had been a mistake. Maybe they should have been preparing for war instead of hoping for peace. Admiral Nari Song entered the office without knocking. She had been doing that more often lately, and Hyun-Soo did not mind. Nari was one of the few people he trusted completely, and right now trust was more valuable than protocol. Sir, the message from Ambassador Kim just came through our secure channels. I think you need to read it immediately. Hyun-Soo took the datapad and read Deho's words. With each sentence, his face grew harder. When he finished, he set the pad down and looked at Nari. How long have we been planning for this day? Since the 3rd year after first contact, Nari replied. When it became clear that the aliens would never treat us as equals, Director Yoon began building intelligence networks throughout the galaxy. We have been mapping their military installations. studying their technology and learning their weaknesses for 47 years. The door opened again, and 2 more people entered. Wu Jinyun was a small, quiet man who ran Earth's intelligence services. Most people underestimated him because he looked like a librarian, but Hyunsu knew that Wu Jin probably had more information about the galaxy than the Galactic Council itself. Behind him came Yoonji Han, who had been working as a diplomatic attaché for 10 years while secretly documenting every crime the aliens committed against humans, Mr. Prime Minister. Wu Jin said in his soft voice. We have been monitoring alien communications for the past 6 hours. The Council has approved the new Terra relocation. They plan to begin moving our people in 2 weeks. Yoonji stepped forward, and her face was pale with anger. Sir, I have the full transcripts of the Council session where they discussed this. They talked about killing our people like they were discussing the weather. The Nexari calculated mortality rates down to the individual. The Veltharians joked about how many humans they could work to death before running out. Hyunsu stood up and walked to the window. Down below, he could see normal people living normal lives. Children playing in parks, people going to work, families having dinner together. All of this would change very soon. Tell me about our military capabilities, he said without turning around. Nari activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Officially, we have 12 light cruisers and 43 patrol ships scattered across human colonies. The aliens allow us just enough firepower to handle pirates and small threats. What they do not know is that we have been building a real fleet. The hologram changed to show hidden shipyards in asteroid belts and gas giant atmospheres. Hundreds of ships appeared on the display. Some were small and fast, others were massive and heavily armed. We reverse-engineered their faster-than-light technology 20 years ago and improved it. Nari continued. Our ships are 30% faster than anything the aliens have. We also developed new weapons based on human military principles rather than alien ones. What kind of principles? Hyunsu asked. Wu Jin answered. The aliens fight wars like they play chess. Everything is planned in advance with proper rules and expected moves. They have been fighting the same way for thousands of years. Humans fight wars like we hunt. We adapt constantly. We use terrain and psychology and surprise. We make our enemies afraid. How afraid? Hyunsu asked. Yoonji smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Sir, we have been studying alien psychology for decades. Each species has fears and cultural taboos that they consider worse than death. The Veltharians fear being seen as weak, because their entire culture is based on strength and honor. The Nexari fear chaos because they need order and logic to function. The Corvani fear change because they worship tradition and ancient ways. We can break them without firing a shot, Wu Jin added. Although we will probably need to fire many shots, Hyunsu turned back to face them. What about our people in the colonies? Can we get them out? Some of them, Nari said. But sir, we cannot save everyone. The aliens have scattered our population across hundreds of worlds, specifically to prevent us from gathering our strength. Any rescue operation will mean leaving millions of humans behind. Then we save who we can and make the aliens pay for every human they have killed, Hyunsu said quietly. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what the Prime Minister was saying. After 50 years of trying to be good galactic citizens, humanity was about to declare war on the 3 most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Wu Jin broke the silence. Sir, there is something else you should know. We are not alone in this. The aliens have been oppressing other species for centuries. Many of them are waiting for someone to start a rebellion. If we move first, others will follow. How many others? At least 40 species across 200 systems. Most of them are small compared to the Council races, but together they represent significant industrial and military capacity. More importantly, they know their local space better than the Council fleets do. Hyunsu nodded slowly. So we would not just be starting a war. We would be starting a revolution. Yes, sir, Yoonji said. The aliens think they have built a stable galactic civilization based on hierarchy and control. They do not realize how many species hate them and how badly. They want things to change. Nari activated another display showing troop movements and fleet positions. Sir, if we are going to do this, we need to move fast. The aliens are not expecting resistance from us, but once we start fighting, they will adapt quickly. Our best chance is to hit them hard in the first wave and keep hitting them before they can organize a proper response. What about Earth? Hyun-soo asked. Will they attack our home world? They will try, Woo-jin admitted. But we have been preparing for that too. Earth has defensive systems the aliens do not know about. We can protect our home long enough to win the war, or at least make them pay too high a price for victory. Hyun-soo walked back to his desk and sat down. He thought about his children and grandchildren who would grow up in whatever world came after this decision. He thought about all the humans who had died, in alien minds dreaming of freedom they would never see. He thought about the people on New Terra who were about to be murdered for the crime of existing. How long do we need to prepare? 72 hours, Nari said. Our fleet commanders are already in position. The intelligence networks are ready to activate. Our alien allies are waiting for our signal. And after we start this, there will be no going back. No, sir, Woo-jin said. Once we fire the first shot, the galaxy will never be the same. Either we win and create a new order, or we lose and humanity becomes extinct. Hyun-soo picked up the data pad with Daeho's message and read it again. Then he looked at each of the three people who had served humanity faithfully for so many years. Gentlemen, lady. We have spent 50 years trying to find our place in their galaxy. I think it is time to make our own galaxy instead. He activated his personal communication system and began recording a message that would be sent to every human colony ship and military commander in space. This is Prime Minister Kong speaking to all humans everywhere. For 5 decades, we have tried to earn respect through patience and hard work. We have followed their rules, accepted their insults, and died in their minds, hoping that someday they would see us as equals. Today, that hope dies, and something else is born. He paused and looked directly into the camera. The aliens think we are weak because we have been peaceful. They think we are stupid because we have been patient. They think we are broken because we have been obedient. Tomorrow, they will learn the difference between choosing to be peaceful and being unable to fight. Tomorrow, humanity stops asking for permission and starts taking what we deserve. The message would reach every human in the galaxy within hours. After that, there would be no more diplomacy, no more patience, and no more mercy. Humanity was about to remind the galaxy why their ancestors had conquered their own world before they ever reached for the stars. Commander Dong-hyun-shin floated in zero gravity inside his stealth ship, watching the Veltharian military base through the view screen. The base was huge and heavily defended with enough firepower to destroy a small planet. The Veltharians inside probably felt completely safe. They were about to learn that safety was an illusion. Around the galaxy at exactly the same time, other human commanders were watching other alien installations. They had all received the same orders. Hit hard, hit fast, and hit where it would hurt the most. But the targets were not what the aliens would expect. Sir, we have confirmation from all strike teams, reported his communications officer, Sung-min. Operation Nightmare is ready to begin. Dong-hyun smiled. The aliens had made the mistake of thinking humans would fight like they did with massive fleets and overwhelming force directed at military targets. Instead, humans were about to teach them that the most dangerous enemy was one who understood your weaknesses better than you did. Begin transmission, Dong-hyun ordered. Across the Veltharian base, every communication system suddenly activated. Screens that should have shown military data instead displayed images of Veltharian warriors running away from battle. The audio systems played recordings of Veltharian leaders begging for mercy. Most damaging of all were the fabricated but believable recordings of high-ranking Veltharians calling their own people cowards and weaklings. The Veltharians inside the base reacted exactly as human psychologists had predicted. Their culture valued honor and strength above everything else. Being called cowards by their own leaders was worse than death. Within minutes, fights broke out as Veltharians accused each other of spreading the insulting messages. The base commander tried to restore order, but the damage was done. The defenders were fighting each other, instead of watching for external threats. That was when Dong-hyun's ship decloaked directly inside the base's shields. Before the confused Veltharians could react, human Marines were teleporting aboard their ships and stations. But the Marines did not try to capture or destroy anything. Instead, they planted devices that would keep broadcasting the humiliating messages for weeks. Phase 1 complete. Sung Min reported. The base is in complete chaos. Should we proceed to Phase 2? Not yet, Dong Hyun said. Let them stew in their own shame for a while. Fear tastes better when it has time to develop. Meanwhile, in Nexari space, Captain Young-A Kim was implementing a completely different strategy. The Nexari prided themselves on logic and efficiency. Their space stations and ships ran with perfect precision based on careful calculations and predictable patterns. Young-E was about to introduce them to chaos theory. Her small task force had spent months studying the Nexari logistics network that supplied hundreds of star systems. The aliens had optimized everything for maximum efficiency with no waste and no redundancy. It was a beautiful system that would collapse completely if just a few key elements went wrong at the same time. Target the automated cargo ships first, Young-A ordered. Reprogram their navigation systems to take them to random destinations. Make sure the new destinations are technically reachable but completely useless. Her technical specialist Mi-jin worked quickly to hack into the Nexari computer networks. The aliens had excellent security against direct attacks, but they had never considered that someone might try to make their systems work incorrectly instead of stopping them completely. Done, Mi-jin reported. 300 cargo ships are now delivering food to military bases and weapons to agricultural worlds. The Nexari logistics AI is trying to correct the errors, but every fix creates 2 new problems. Young-A nodded. Now hit their communication. Relays. Do not destroy them, just add random delays and route messages to wrong destinations. Make sure every urgent message arrives 3 hours late, and every routine report gets marked as emergency priority. Across Nexari space, carefully planned operations began falling apart as the wrong information reached the wrong people at the wrong times. Military commanders received agricultural reports while farmers got tactical updates. Emergency response teams were dispatched to handle problems that did not exist, while real emergencies went unnoticed. The Nexari tried to fix their systems, but every solution created new complications. Their logical minds could not grasp that someone was deliberately making their technology work badly instead of trying to break it completely. They kept looking for system failures instead of recognizing sabotage. In the ancient Corvani territories, Captain Sung-Ho Park was preparing the most psychologically devastating attack of all. The Corvani worshipped their ancestors and preserved ancient traditions that went back thousands of years. Their most sacred sites contained artifacts and monuments that defined their entire culture. But Sung-Ho was not going to destroy these sacred places. That would only make the Corvani angry. Instead, he was going to do something much worse. He was going to change them. Remember the cultural analysis, Sung-Ho told his crew. The Corvani cannot adapt to change. Any alteration to their sacred traditions causes psychological breakdown. We are not here to destroy their culture, we are here to evolve it. His ships approached the holiest shrine in Corvani space. The massive temple had stood unchanged for 5,000 years and contained the preserved remains of the first Corvani leaders. Millions of Corvani pilgrims visited every year to pray and meditate in exactly the same way their ancestors had Sung-Ho's. Technical teams used advanced construction robots to make subtle changes to the temple. They moved statues to slightly different positions. They altered the lighting to be 3% brighter. They adjusted the acoustic properties so that traditional chants sounded slightly different. Every change was small and carefully calculated, to be disturbing without being obviously wrong. When Corvani pilgrims arrived, they found their most sacred place feeling subtly alien. The prayers they had memorized sounded wrong. The meditation chambers that should have brought peace instead caused anxiety. The ancient ceremonies that had comforted their people for millennia now felt awkward and strange. The psychological effect was devastating. Corvani leaders accused each other of allowing the sacred sites to be corrupted. Religious authorities argued about whether the changes were real or imagined. Some Corvani declared that their gods were angry, while others insisted that they were being tested. The unified Corvani culture began fracturing as different groups interpreted the changes in different ways. Back on Earth, Admiral Neri Song coordinated the global assault from the Situation Room deep beneath Seoul. Holographic displays showed the status of hundreds of operations across the galaxy. Every few minutes, new reports arrived, showing alien military and political systems falling into chaos. "Ma'am, the Veltharian 7th Fleet is completely paralyzed," reported her aide Kyung-ho. "Half their ships are refusing orders because they think their commanders have been compromised. The other half are fighting each other over who has the right to give orders. The Nexari supply lines have collapsed," added Intelligence Officer Hee-jin. "Their industrial worlds are running out of raw materials while their agricultural worlds are drowning in military equipment they cannot use. Their ruling council is spending all their time trying to fix the logistics problems instead of responding to our attacks. And the Corvani are experiencing massive civil unrest," reported communications specialist Jin Ai. 17 different religious factions are claiming to represent the true faith. Their military cannot act because the political leaders are paralyzed by theological debates. Nari studied the tactical displays and smiled. Human forces had engaged the three galactic superpowers simultaneously, and none of the aliens were fighting back effectively. They were too busy fighting themselves. "What about our own losses?" she asked. "Minimal," Kyung-ho replied. "We have lost 6 ships and 43 personnel. Enemy military casualties are actually lower than ours because they keep shooting at each other instead of us." Nari activated the communication system to address all human forces. "Outstanding work, everyone. Phase 1, objectives have been achieved ahead of schedule. All alien military forces are neutralized through psychological warfare rather than direct combat. Begin Phase 2 immediately." Across the galaxy, human ships that had been hiding in asteroid fields and nebulae suddenly appeared at important alien worlds. But instead of attacking, they began broadcasting on all frequencies. Every transmission was the same message repeated in dozens of alien languages. "This is the Human Liberation Fleet speaking to all intelligent species. The Galactic Council has declared war on humanity by planning genocide against our colonies. We have responded by demonstrating that the three great powers are not as powerful as they claim. Any species that wishes to be free from Council oppression should contact us immediately. Any species that chooses to support the Council will be treated as an enemy. You have 24 hours to decide." The message reached hundreds of worlds where enslaved species had been waiting for exactly this moment. Within hours, reports began flooding in of rebellions breaking out across the galaxy. Species that had been oppressed for centuries suddenly saw their chance for freedom. Mi Kyung Lee, former human diplomat turned propaganda specialist, monitored the response from her command ship. "Admiral, the reaction is exceeding all projections." General Jae-min Ko stood in the ruins of what had once been the Veltharian 3rd Fleet headquarters and tried to count the cost of victory. The battle had lasted 18 hours and ended with complete human triumph, but the price had been higher than anyone expected. The aliens had learned to fight back. Around him, human marines were securing alien prisoners and cataloging captured equipment. The Veltharians had fought with desperate courage once they realized their psychological warfare was not working. Their final charge had been magnificent and completely futile, but it had cost the lives of 300 human soldiers. "Sir, we have established contact with the Rilanti refugees," reported Captain Sora Huang as she approached through the debris. The Rilanti were one of dozens of alien species that had joined the human rebellion. They had been enslaved by the Veltharians for 2 centuries and had intimate knowledge of their former master's military capabilities. "What is their status?" Jae-min asked. "Grateful but cautious," Sora replied. "They are willing to share intelligence about Veltharian fleet movements, but they want guarantees that humans will not simply replace the Council as their new oppressors." Jae-min nodded. That was the question every liberated species asked. After centuries of alien domination, they found it hard to believe that any powerful species would treat them as equals. Human diplomatic teams were working around the clock to prove that humanity meant what it said about freedom and equality. "Any word from Captain Kyung-min's rescue mission?" Sora's expression darkened. "They reached the prison camp on Vortex 7, but sir, what they found there was worse than we expected. The aliens were not just working our people to death, they were conducting medical experiments. They wanted to understand human psychology so they could develop better control methods." Jae-min felt his hands clench into fists. Every day brought new evidence of alien cruelty that went far beyond simple oppression. The Council species had been systematically studying every enslaved race to find better ways to break their spirits and eliminate resistance. How many survivors? 12,000 out of 40,000, Sora said quietly. The rest died in the experiments or were killed when the camp guards realized rescue ships were approaching. The number hit J-Min like a physical blow. 40,000 humans dead in a single camp, and there were hundreds of similar facilities across the galaxy. The full scope of alien genocide was only now becoming clear as human forces liberated more worlds. Sir, incoming priority message from Admiral Song, interrupted Communications Officer Hyo-Jin Park. As she ran up with a datapad, Jamin read the message, and his face went pale. Patch me through to all human commanders immediately. Within minutes, the holographic forms of a dozen human military leaders appeared around Jamin. Admiral Nari Song spoke from her flagship, while Captain Young-A Kim reported from deep in Nexari space. Other commanders checked in from battlefields across the galaxy. Status report, Jamin ordered. Young-A spoke first. Sir, the Nexari have completely restructured their command system. They are using biological computers that cannot be hacked by our methods. Their new logistics network is based on quantum entanglement that we cannot disrupt. They have adapted to every technique we used against them. Captain Dong-Hyun Shin's image flickered as his ship maneuvered through an asteroid field. The Veltharians have started using psychological warfare against us. They are broadcasting recordings of human screams from their prison camps on all frequencies. Some of our crew members are having mental breakdowns from listening to our own people being tortured. The Corvani have unified under emergency religious protocols, added another commander. They have declared this a holy war against the forces of chaos. Their entire civilization is now mobilized for total warfare. They would rather die than surrender. Admiral Nari's expression was grim. Worse than that, the three council species have stopped fighting each other and formed a unified command structure. They are coordinating their military operations for the first time in galactic history. Our initial advantages are gone. Jamin absorbed this information. The human strategy had been based on keeping the alien powers divided and confused. Now they were facing the combined might of three galactic civilizations that had centuries of military experience. What about our alien allies? He asked. Mixed results, reported Sora. The species closest to human space are fighting effectively, but many of the others are being crushed by council forces. The Cathara Confederation lost their entire home system yesterday. The Zephyrian Republic is requesting immediate evacuation of their civilian population. How many species have we lost? 11 so far, with 8 more requesting emergency assistance we cannot provide, Nari replied. Sir, we are winning individual battles, but we are losing the strategic war. The aliens have more ships, more soldiers, and more resources than we can match. Jamin looked at each commander's face in the holographic display. These were the best military minds humanity had produced, and all of them looked worried. The easy victories of the first weeks were over. Now they faced the harsh reality of conventional warfare against superior numbers. What about Earth? He asked. Still secure, but under increasing pressure? Nari said. The aliens have assembled a task force of over 2,000 ships for an assault on our home system. Our defenses can hold them off for a while, but not indefinitely. The implications were clear. If Earth fell, humanity would lose its industrial base and strategic coordination. The rebellion would fragment into isolated resistance cells that could be hunted down and destroyed over time. Sir, there is something else, added Young-A hesitantly. The aliens have started targeting human civilian populations specifically, not just as collateral damage but as deliberate terror weapons. They are broadcasting the executions on public channels with messages saying this is what happens to species that defy the Council. Jamin felt a cold rage building in his chest. How many dead? Conservative estimate is 2 million humans killed. In deliberate massacres over the past week, Young-A replied. They are trying to break our will to fight by making us watch our own people die. Are they succeeding? No, sir, came the immediate chorus from every commander. If anything, it is making our people fight harder. Human colony militias are requesting permission to take no prisoners. Some of our ship crews are painting alien blood on their hulls as war trophies. Jamin was not surprised. Humans had always responded to atrocities with increased determination rather than surrender. The aliens had made the same mistake that human tyrants had made throughout history. They thought terror would create submission when it actually created fury. New orders for all commands, he said. We are shifting to total war protocols. No more attempts to minimize civilian casualties. No more efforts to preserve alien infrastructure. No more mercy for council forces. The aliens want to see what monsters look like, and we are going to show them. "Sir, what about our principles?" asked one commander. "We started this war to create a better galaxy, not to become like them." Jamin was quiet for a long moment. "Captain, our principles are why we will win this war. We fight for freedom while they fight for oppression. We fight to protect our families while they fight to maintain their privileges. We fight because we have to, while they fight because they want to. Those differences matter." He activated the communication system to address all human forces simultaneously. "This is General Ko speaking to every human warrior in the galaxy. The aliens think they can break us by killing our civilians and torturing our people. They think we will surrender if they make the cost high enough. They are wrong." His voice carried across space to reach human soldiers on 1,000 different battlefields. "Our ancestors conquered Earth, not because they were the strongest or the fastest or the smartest, but because they never quit. When the mammoths tried to crush them, they learned to hunt in packs. When the Ice Age tried to freeze them, they learned to make fire. When other humans tried to enslave them, they learned to fight back." The transmission reached human colonies where families listened in bomb shelters while alien fleets bombarded their worlds. It reached human ships where crews worked around the clock to repair battle damage. It reached human marines who were preparing to assault alien strongholds against impossible odds. "The aliens have made one critical error in their calculations," Jamin continued. "They assume that all species think like they do. They think we fight for territory or resources or glory. They do not understand that humans fight for something much more dangerous. We fight for each other across the galaxy." Human forces received new orders. The gloves were coming off. Humanity had tried to wage a civilized war against an uncivilized enemy. Now they would wage the kind of war that humans understood best. Total war with no rules and no mercy. Every human who has died in their camps will be avenged, Jamin promised. Every family they have destroyed will be paid for in alien blood. Every world they have conquered will be liberated. The aliens wanted to see human monsters, and now they will get their wish. We are about to show them what happens when you threaten the pack. The message ended, and across the galaxy, human forces began moving with new purpose. The rebellion was about to become something much more terrible. It was about to become a human war. 2 years after the first shot was fired, the galaxy looked nothing like it had before humans decided to stop asking for permission. Jinwoo Seo stood on the observation deck of the space station that had once been the Galactic Council headquarters, and watched construction crews installing new docking bays designed for human ships. The station itself was a symbol of how much had changed. Where once only 3 alien species had been allowed to speak, now representatives from over 200 different worlds came to debate and vote as equals. The Great Chamber, where Dae-ho Kim had been dismissed like an insect, now hosted discussions. Where the smallest voice carried as much weight as the largest coordinator. "CEO, the morning briefing is ready," announced his aide Ye-Jin Chang as she approached with a datapad. Jin Woo had been elected as the first human galactic coordinator, not because he was the strongest or smartest, but because he understood that leadership meant serving others rather than commanding them. "What is the current status of integration efforts?" Jin Woo asked as they walked toward his office. "Better than expected in most sectors," Ye-Jin replied. "The former council worlds are adapting to democratic governance faster than our projections indicated. Apparently many of their people were as tired of the old system as we were." Jinwoo nodded. That had been one of the war's biggest surprises. When human forces had finally reached the alien homeworlds, they had expected to fight desperate populations defending their governments. Instead, they found millions of ordinary aliens who welcomed liberation from their own ruling classes. Any problems with the transition? Some resistance groups are still active, especially in the outer territories, Ye-Jin admitted. Admiral Chang's forces are dealing with 3 separate terrorist cells that want to restore the old hierarchy. They call themselves the True Order, and they have been targeting mixed-species colonies. The True Order was made up of aliens who could not accept that their species were no longer automatically superior to others. They launched attacks on human settlements and allied alien worlds, hoping to restart the war. So far, they had accomplished nothing except proving why the old system had needed to die. What about reconstruction efforts? Ahead of schedule on most worlds, Ye-Jin said with satisfaction. Colony Administrator Sungmin Baek reports that former slave worlds are achieving industrial output levels that exceed what they had under council rule. When people work for themselves instead of their oppressors, they accomplish Amazing things. Jin Woo smiled at that news. The economic transformation had been as dramatic as the political one. Species that had been forced to provide raw materials for alien empires were now building their own industries and trading freely with each other. The galaxy's total productivity had increased by 40% in just 2 years. They entered Jin Woo's office, where cultural liaison Ha-Young Lim was waiting with a stack of reports. Ha-Young's job was one of the most difficult in the new government. She helped alien refugees adapt to human-led society while ensuring that their cultures and traditions were preserved and respected. Coordinator, I have updates from the refugee integration programs, Ha-Young said. We now have over 6 million alien civilians living in human space with full citizenship rights. The Cathara refugees have established 3 new colonies, and the Zephyrian artists have opened cultural centers on 15 worlds. Any conflicts between different groups? Minor ones that are being resolved through mediation rather than force, Ha-Young replied. Yesterday, we had a dispute between Corvani traditionalists and Nexari efficiency experts over agricultural methods. Instead of fighting, they agreed to test both approaches and share the results. Jin Woo found that example encouraging. Under the old system, such disagreements would have been settled by whoever had more military power. Now different species actually talked to each other and found solutions that worked for everyone. Sir, incoming priority transmission from Ambassador Kim, announced the communication officer. Jin Woo activated the holographic display, and Daeho Kim's image appeared. The former ambassador looked older and more tired than he had 2 years ago, but there was satisfaction in his eyes that had not been there before. Coordinator, the war crimes tribunals have reached their final verdicts, Daeho reported. The surviving council leaders have been found guilty of genocide crimes against sentience and systematic oppression. The sentences range from life imprisonment to exile depending on their level of involvement. Jin Woo felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Justice had been served, but it could not bring back the millions who had died in alien camps and experiments. The trials had been necessary to establish that the new galactic order would be based on law rather than revenge. What about the lower-level officials? Most have been allowed to return to civilian life after completing rehabilitation programs, Daeho said. The truth is that many of them were just following orders in a system they never questioned. We decided that understanding and education would serve justice better than punishment. That decision had been controversial among some human military leaders who wanted harsher penalties for all alien officials. Jin Woo had supported the more merciful approach because he understood that lasting peace required forgiveness as well as justice. Any word from Earth about the memorial project? Construction is proceeding on schedule, Daeho replied. The memorial to the lost will honor every being who died under council oppression regardless of species. It will be completed in time for the 3rd anniversary of Liberation Day. Liberation Day had become the most important holiday in the new galactic calendar. It marked not just human victory, but the moment when the concept of species-based hierarchy had been abandoned forever. Every world celebrated it differently, but all shared the same message that freedom belonged to everyone. Sir, we have a situation developing in the frontier zones, interrupted Admiral Yejin Chang as she entered the office. Our long-range scouts have detected signs of organized military activity beyond the galactic rim. It appears that some council loyalists have established bases outside our territory. Jin Woo frowned. They had known that some alien hardliners had escaped during the final battles, but hoped they would simply fade away. If they were organizing for another war, the galaxy might not have seen the last of the old conflicts. How serious is the threat? Unknown at this time, Admiral Chang replied. We estimate they have perhaps 100 ships and limited industrial capacity. Not enough to threaten major worlds, but sufficient to cause problems for isolated colonies. Recommendations? Increase patrols in the border regions and improve intelligence gathering, Admiral Chang said. Also, we should consider offering amnesty to any aliens who want to return and integrate into the new system. Many of them are probably more scared than hostile. Jin Woo agreed with that assessment. Fear drove most conflicts, and the former council species had plenty to be afraid of. They had lost their privileged position and had to learn to live as equals, with species they had oppressed for centuries. Some would adapt while others would fight the change until they died. Implement both recommendations, he ordered. But make sure our forces understand that we want to resolve this peacefully if possible. "We have had enough war." The meeting concluded, and Jin Woo walked alone to the memorial chamber that had been built in the center of the station. The walls displayed the names of every being who had died fighting for freedom. Human names were mixed, with alien ones in alphabetical order without regard for species. In death, at least everyone was truly equal. Jin Woo found the name he was looking for about halfway down one wall. Captain So-min Park had died in the final battle for the Veltharian homeworld when her ship had rammed an alien dreadnought to prevent it from destroying a refugee convoy. She had saved 10,000 lives with her sacrifice. "I hope we are building the kind of galaxy you died for," he said quietly to her name. The memorial chamber was designed to be peaceful and contemplative, but Jin Woo found his thoughts turning to the future rather than the past. In 5 years, there would be elections for every major position in the galactic government, including his own. Some of the candidates would be aliens who had never known human rule and might have different ideas about how society should work. That prospect excited rather than worried him. Democracy meant that power belonged to everyone, not just humans. If alien politicians could convince voters that they had better ideas, then they deserved the chance to lead. The whole point of the revolution had been to create a system where merit mattered more than species. Jin Woo's personal communicator chimed with an incoming message from his granddaughter on Earth. She was 7 years old and had been born into a galaxy where humans and aliens lived and worked together as a matter of course. To her, it seemed perfectly normal that her teacher was a reformed Nexari mathematician and her best friend was a young Cathara whose family had been refugees' grandfather. "I learned about the old days in school today," her recorded message said. "My teacher told us that once upon a time, different species could not be friends. That sounds really silly. Why would anyone care what someone looked like if they were nice?" Jin Woo smiled as he listened to her innocent question. That was the real victory of the human revolution. They had not just changed laws and governments, they had changed the way an entire galaxy thought about itself.